This episode is brought to you by Companion. Iris and Josh seem like the perfect match, but when a weekend getaway turns into a nightmare, Iris realizes that things aren't as perfect as they appear. From the creators of Barbarian and the studio that brought you The Notebook comes a twisted tale of modern romance and the sweet satisfaction of revenge. Companion, only in theaters January 31st. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
I was absolutely blown away by how amazing it was, but the American versions of Godzilla, I think, have not been that great. And so I went into this with very low expectations because I didn't, I knew it was made by Japanese, but I was thinking, are they going to try to keep up with what the Americans have been doing, which has not been very good. But man, was I pleasantly surprised to be wrong. And it's my favorite Godzilla movie that's ever been made. It's amazing in my opinion.
Hi everyone, joining Flixwatcher today we have the Rev Scott K.
Hello.
Elwood.
Hello.
And Kobe.
Hello.
And we're going to be discussing Godzilla Minus One.
Thank you as always to the mighty people for their mighty tunes, and thanks to Ben from Rockwood Audio for editing this podcast. Please do remember to head over to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Pocket Casts to give us a 5-star rating and a massively glowing review. Glowing like Godzilla's tail, spines and the back, glowing, that kind of glowing, Join the conversation with us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod, or we are at FlixWatcher on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and Blue Sky.
Hello film fans, welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. Our guests today are Scott and Elwood. Over to you please, Elwood. Say hello to our listeners and tell them a little bit more about who you are and what you do, please.
Hello, I'm Elwood Jones, one half of the Asian Cinema Film Club. We are a podcast which provides an introduction to Asian cinema, looking at everything from the art house to the grindhouse and everything in between.
And hello, I am the Reverend Scott K, host of the Church of Tarantino podcast, the only current podcast dedicated to everything and anything Quentin Tarantino. And as I forgot to say before, may Tarantino be with you always.
He's a popular choice for Flixwatcher.
Him and Edgar Wright are up there for the most seen directors on this podcast. But yeah, you said it's still current, but he does the odd thing, doesn't he? He pops up in a lot of places, QT, and he's written a book, The Alternative History to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, for example. Is that worth reading, that book? Because I understand it expands a lot on the film.
Absolutely. So the movie is basically the forefront of that movie is Rick Dalton. We're learning about Rick Dalton.
Yeah.
The book is a compendium. It's really, we learn more about Cliff Booth in that book.
Okay.
So it'll answer your question on what happens on the boat, how he gets brandy, a lot of things, and even goes into post the events at the end of the film, kind of speculating on what would have happened to both of their careers after they actually stop the Manson family murders instead of them actually happening in real life.
Oh, okay.
So, really well done. Yeah. Which is probably one of the reasons that the movie critic did not come to light, because he stayed too long in the world and he was starting to change it after there was the strike. It was, instead of it being just about a movie critic, they started to pull more of Cliff Booth into it and go into like his post-career as a director, which would have denutted him in the way that we would get. If you read the book and you watch the movie, Cliff Booth no longer is this amazing, wild character. He becomes less of a character. He becomes just a director in Hollywood and takes away the mystique and lore of who Cliff Booth is from what that film was going to be. So, as the Reverend would like to say, I would be so glad that the movie critic is no longer going to be the movie. So I think I think he would have
no longer movie number 10.
Yeah, he would have bastardized the love of what that project was. And I think he realized that at probably like the last second. He's like, you know what? I'm starting to skate into a territory that I never wanted to get into, which is, that's why we haven't got Kill Bill Volume 3, because we probably never will. Because he doesn't want to ruin something, because he'd have to go, and he said it on podcast, he'd have to go above and beyond to make Kill Bill Volume 3 better than what we got from the first Kill Bill movie. So,
when you mentioned Kill Bill there, I got to ask, are you a Kill Bill 1 or 2?
It's one film, broken up into 2 parts. It's one film.
I'm not sure.
Now, it works great as broken up into two. Well, I'm not going to lie. And I've been a bit of a whore because I've used both as a stuff to talk about. I don't just talk about it once. I talk about it twice. So I myself have used it. But it was designed as one. And it's one of the things I talk about on my podcast is we were promised the Kill Bill Whole Bloody Affair years ago. And that has never seen the light of day yet. So he did promise to put the thing back together as one full movie that it was meant to be. So
I'd watch that. I'd love that for a re-release for them to do that. I think that would be really
That'd
good.
be a great cinema experience, that I think.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
Because they changed the House of Blue release, the Japanese cut, so it's all in color.
Yeah, all in color. Yep. Which he went to black and white so that it would just make the red. The problem in Hollywood isn't that there's blood, it's that it's red. So if you go black and white, you can have all the blood you want, but it doesn't look red. So that's America.
These loopholes.
Tons of them.
So we're talking today about Godzilla Minus One. This is your choice there, Scott.
Yes.
Can you tell us, first of all, why you chose it? And then I'll get the timer out, in which you have 60 seconds to give us a synopsis.
Yeah, I chose it because just a little over a year ago, or coming up on a year ago, I was on our other guest, Elwood Jones's Kaiju Christmas on his Asian Cinema Film Club. And we were talking about Godzilla. And at the time, Godzilla Minus One had just come out. And I think I went the day after the recording, was the plan anyways, to go see it. And I was absolutely blown away by how amazing it was. But the American versions of Godzilla, I think, have not been that great. And so I went into this with very low expectations because I didn't, I knew it was made by Japanese, but I was thinking, are they going to try to keep up with what the Americans have been doing, which has not been very good. But man, was I pleasantly surprised to be wrong. And it's my favorite Godzilla movie that's ever been made. It's amazing in my opinion.
Okay, the synopsis timer starts now.
In post-war Japan, they are at their lowest point when a new crisis emerges in the form of a giant monster baptized in the horrific power of the atomic bomb. A cowardly kamikaze pilot must confront his past and the monster that terrorizes his nightmares, Godzilla, if he ever wants his internal war to end. All hail the king of the monsters.
Dear listener, as that was happening, the cat was let out of the room.
I thought I saw a cat in my corner of my eye. I was like, where's that cat?
I'm going to definitely come back to the bold statement of your favorite Godzilla film. Where are you, Elwood, on Godzilla? Obviously, it is a big part of Asian cinema. Have you covered much the kaiju aspects? Obviously, you had Kaiju Christmas.
Oh yeah, we have Kaiju Christmas every year. It's
okay, all right.
Because otherwise, I would just do kaiju all the time. So to not drive my co-hosts insane, I said, every Christmas we'll watch a kaiju movie because there's not a lot of Christmas movies in Asian cinema. We'll watch a kaiju movie.
Would you class Satoshi Kon's Tokyo Godfathers as the Christmas movie?
That is a rare, I mean, there are one or two, but it's nothing to compared to America or England, where we've just churn them out on a weekly basis. It's a little
Daily.
more, at least from what June we've had Christmas movies on over here. So,
is there a Godzilla film where he wears a Santa hat?
Sadly, no, but there is a giant Christmas tree shaped like Godzilla that breathes smoke that they wheel out every year, and it is awesome. And I would love to have it in my house, but I've been told
there?
no.
Where's this happen?
It's in a mall in Japan. I keep forgetting which one. There is a.
That makes sense.
I'm sure if you Google
Godzilla Christmas tree,
you would see it, and you would think, I need that for my lawn. So as I said, every year we cover a different kaiju movie. We've done Gamera movies. We've done North Korea's entry into to the kaiju genre with Pulgasari, which was handled by Kim Jong-un, the current dictator. They actually borrowed the guys from Toho Studios to do the effects for it over there, and they apparently had a nice time, unlike the director who was kidnapped along with his wife to make the film. But Godzilla Minus One is a real going back to the original Godzilla. It's returning it to that sort of more serious tone, because if you watch the original Godzilla, it's very grounded. It's not got a lot of the hokiness that a lot of people expect from the Godzilla movies. You have scenes of field hospitals. You have real sort of collateral damage happening in that movie. And I think with Godzilla Minus One, it returns that human aspect to the film. And sort of, they know that Legendary have been doing their thing with the MonsterVerse, and I think it's been great what we've had. And Godzilla is a character who's done so many different types of stories. He's had so many different moods, depending on the hero. If you want to watch something like his initial era, the Shower era, which is sort of like the men in monster suits having kung fu battles. And then you get into Heisei, which gets a little more darker. Godzilla is the villain. And then we get into Millennium, which is where it goes really sort of dark. And we sort of blend the two eras together. But with this one, it's sort of like opening up a new era that we saw initially with Shin Godzilla, which was kind of like Godzilla from the war room perspective. And we got to see the evolution of Godzilla. And with this one, it's sort of like going right back to the start and giving us a new, fresh perspective with this kamikaze pilot who's suffering from survivor's guilt for, having the sense not to go on a kamikaze mission. But now Godzilla becomes this embodiment of his guilt that he has to like face up to.
Like when he comes back to his hometown and that first woman he sees goes, "Hold on, weren't you a kamikaze? What are you doing here? Weren't you supposed to be definitely dead by now? What went wrong with you?"
It's kind of like that Family Guy joke, isn't it? Where it's sort of like, he's a suicide bomber, but he hands in a sick note. You're a suicide bomber.
Helen, I think you're a fan of this one, are you?
I am. I know of Godzilla. I don't really know if I've seen any other Godzilla films, but yeah, this arrived over here with a little bit of a buzz about it. Everyone's saying this one's really good. I saw it at the cinema. There was like a Picture House do like little members previews, and I went along to that, and it was packed out. Like every seat was taken with everyone ready to watch little Godzilla with his little blue spikes in this one. So yeah.
Did we watch a different film? Godzilla I saw was like eating tankers.
I don't really have much of a Godzilla reference apart from like that 90s Godzilla with Jamiroquai singing the song, which I don't think I saw.
And the Taco Bell tie-in over here in America, where they attack. It's kind of like Godzilla meets Jurassic Park, where like he's laying eggs in Madison Square Garden.
Maybe
the Matthew Broderick one.
Yeah,
maybe I've seen it, or maybe I get it mixed up with Jurassic Park 2. But yeah, like I enjoyed it, and I think there's a lot of story to it, and like I like it when he does that little like mega power up thing, and like the theme goes really hard, and it was good.
Yeah, I don't know much. I used to watch the Godzilla cartoon back in the 80s. That was my main reference to Godzilla, and most iterations have fallen a bit like, I feel this should just be better. It should just be like a really propulsive kind of interesting story, but most iterations I've seen haven't been that. And I think this is phenomenal. I think it's just like, I think maybe the US versions have tried to lean too much into the spectacle of boshing down the cities, but not having any kind of anyone to think about or hope for or root for whilst that's happening. And there's potentially been a disconnect there. But here you have the bashing down the cities as well. Not much of it, but there's one key scene in which that happens, which is very fun actually. I just don't know how they did it. I don't know. I kind of put this aside as a genre that just isn't going to be that interesting on film, and I've been proven wrong.
I mean, when it comes to like Godzilla movies in Japan, for a director to be asked to direct a Godzilla movie, it's the same as an English director being asked to direct a James Bond movie. It's held in such high regard. This great honor to be asked to do a Godzilla movie. And for a while, they were like really fighting on doing this one because the MonsterVerse was happening, and they didn't really want to interfere too much with what Legendary were doing. And they basically put this together over lockdown. And came out with just this completely fresh new take. And I mean, this is a character that's been around for 70 odd years. I mean, he has a star on the Walk of Fame. And you're still finding ways to make the story fresh, to give us a new perspective on this character, to make him imposing. And we're now obviously moving away from the guys in suits. And the traditionalist in me would still like to see the Japanese movies using actors in suits, but I understand for this, obviously, Toho no longer has the setup. They no longer have the big tanks they used to shoot these movies in. They dismantled them when they did Final Wars. So everything afterwards, so like Shin Godzilla and this one, have been smaller in scale, and they've relied more on the computer effects. But I think as it won the Oscar for best computer effects. I forget the category.
Visual
effects. I think it proves me wrong, really, on that fact. So, but it just looks absolutely stunning when you look at the film and how they managed to really still manage to capture the element of height and scale, which is something the American ones don't tend to do. They tend to shoot everything at middle range. And you go back to the original movies, like the ones especially directed by Honda, and it's where you got the low angles and you get that sense of scale, which this film perfectly captures. Like when Godzilla is first introduced, when he's attacking the island, and it's like suddenly this huge creature, like it's just coming along and just stomping on everything. He's eating people, and you've got this guy. You understand why he's panicked. That he can't shoot, even though the engineer's sort of like, you shoot him. And he's just watching people get decimated. You can understand when you're faced with the scale of this thing, and to see this on the big screen as well, it just sort of like only adds to that effect.
If he'd have shot him, he would have been dead, because it wouldn't have killed him, those bullets.
It's an interesting point to ask, because at that point he's a dinosaur size, right? Like he's just a dinosaur size. It's like a T-Rex has wandered onto this island, and who knows? But I think it's that does he, doesn't he? But I think it's great, because what made this film so interesting, and why it's one of my favorites, is it's really a film. It's got a monster in it, but it's really the Japanese coming to terms with their samurai culture of it is honorable to die, and life is not valued, especially if you're a male. You must die in battle, since the kamikazes. It's a whole country, and they have all those little set pieces where they talk about it in their meetings, where the country is coming to terms with, like, this is almost 100 years after World War II. We're getting close to about 80 years since it, that they're coming to terms with a way of life that just saw their male citizens as nothing more than to be at the disposal of their military, to die, if necessary, in glorious combat for the honor of Japan. And I think it's really amazing to have like an anti-war film inside a Godzilla movie, which was really, really smart. And obviously, the creators are big fans of Jaws, because that fucking sequence. Talk about special effects. I watched it again today, and I saw it in the theater, and I saw it today on my TV, and I was just still watching the boat and the head. And I'm like, how the fuck are they doing this? Like, it's not the old Jaws where like they had to pull this mechanical thing. I'm like, how are they making this look so goddamn real? Like, I still was convinced, like, he's in the water. Like, there's a mechanical Godzilla in the water. There's no way they're doing this special effects wise. Because if you see the Flash movie, you go, well, special effects are really taking a nosedive. And then you watch this one, you're going, they had half the budget, and they're making Godzilla look like he's going through the water after this boat. In a total homage to Jaws. Beautifully done. It's scary as hell, and it's just one of the best moments in the film. And I know the big set pieces are amazing, but just watching Godzilla come through the water like a shark after this small boat, man, I mean, that is cinema. That is absolutely,
I forgot how early
joy cinema.
I forgot quite how early in the film that happens, because that's quite.
It's early. It's one of the first things once he gets. So it's probably the first third. I think it's the tipping point that sends us to the middle of the film, because then that big boat comes in, their big destroyer, and it thinks it's going to waylay to Godzilla. Godzilla says, "Oh, my fucking beer." And just destroys them. And then you realize, like, oh, wow, this is, I mean, at that moment, if you're not hooked as a person watching, you don't have to be a Godzilla fan. If you're not hooked by that, then you've gone to the wrong movie. And then you just don't enjoy big spectacle and great storytelling at the same time. And that's where the American films fall short, is the story is just, it's really about get the monsters to fight.
Yeah.
It's really like, we don't care about what the story is. Let's
it's
get
just
the monsters
moving
to fight.
pieces around the map. It's okay. So that one starts there. That one starts there. We need them to fight in Madison Square Gardens, or like climb a thing. We'll engineer some kind of bullshit story. So, I mean, let's talk about the story for a moment, because we had, he comes back from war. All his family's gone. This lady who's adopted a young child. So there's this found family, of which there's honor in there, which says that no romance shall happen, but also there's that kind of tension in there that says, hold on, there could be romance if you want to, and also we can take out this little girl who's definitely our daughter, even though maybe not by blood. And I thought that was such an interesting angle to take. And the initial lady, who was a bit like, hey, you didn't die in the war, she suddenly becomes like Aunt May, kind of thing, and being the best person in the village to have. And I loved how they initially moved into back into that shack, which is less than the shack. And they upgraded it, like piece by piece. It got better walls, it got better paper. It just became like a home, and over time, and the whole crew on the little boat as well. I thought it was fantastic. There's just so much character in this, which you just don't see in a lot of films. So not just the special effects. I was like, this is where the film is.
Godzilla with heart.
Godzilla with heart. I love the professor. So much.
Yeah, he was my favourite. Like, I'm glad you mentioned about Jaws, because that was kind of like my thing, was like, this is for you if you really loved Jaws but like wanted a bit of Godzilla in it. And like, I think there's something about that kind of setting on a boat that just is really exciting, because like there's nowhere you can go. So you know that you are on that boat, and they're kind of like, the little professor guy, and he's very much like, we've got this plan, like, don't know if it's going to work, but it's a plan. And he's just kind of like, that's my idea. If you want to go for it, you can. And just trying to convince people. And they have like that little group have a really nice little relationship. And the guy with the broken arm as well, who wants to become the little guy, but they don't want to let him because he's young and they want to save him. So yeah, it's like,
I like the way they kind of laid into was it Shichiki? I can't remember how you say his name. Like she wanted you, and you did nothing about it.
Yes.
That professor, because you just think he's kind of on the boat when he's with the lads, he's just some kind of bumbling older guy. He's just knowledgeable through being a bit older, and then he comes into that war room meeting with the rest of them, and suddenly he's like leading it, and they're like, hold on, where's this going? We're going to sink him with Freon gas because that's going to create a wall of bubbles which will sink him. And everyone's like, sorry, the three guys three friends of the boat, like, hold on, who is this guy? How do we not know how insanely smart this guy is that we've been hanging out with for the past, like, I don't know, year or so?
And it's a great plot to do that for, right? Because look, if it's the American version, the first thing is, can we nuke it? Like, that's the first question in all these fucking movies. Can we nuke it? It's like, well, fuck, is that all we can do is nuke everything? So when they come together with this little plot and this plan, and they don't just do what the normal sci-fi does, right? Well, we're going to explain the plan. We're not going to show how it works. Don't worry about it. We've got the technology and CGI to make it look like it's going to work anyway. So it doesn't matter what we say, it's going to work. But then they bring out the whole fucking setup. They've got a fish tank with a wooden cutout, Godzilla. I mean, they go through the whole thing and they go, now look outside at the window, and they've got this fucking air mattress that comes out, and you're kind of like, God damn. Like, you go, even in the middle, like this is going to work. Like, as the audience, you go, I feel like this is going to work because I've seen the plan. And it's the best thing they've got. I mean, because the other option is like, the Americans were going to nuke it. It's like, well, we can't nuke it because that's how he got to the way he is because we nuked him while he was sleeping in the water. And now look at him. So I just really appreciated a sci-fi movie that was not afraid to be smart, not afraid to keep the science in the sci-fi, not always just go to the fiction. I really like that. Look, I don't know enough about buoyancy to know if that's an actual thing they could have done, if they could have got him down there and all that stuff. But you know what? I didn't care. It was at least a more realistic plot of killing Godzilla that didn't require some kind of atom bomb or some ridiculous, contraption to kill this giant monster. And then, even when the things do happen at the end of the film and we all know how it ends, it still feels realistic. It feels like, okay, yeah, all right, so maybe it didn't destroy him, but it did knock him down for a while. Like, they actually found a way, but, Godzilla will rise, as he always does. But at least you felt more realistic, as opposed to, you get your horror movies where, like, Jason's been shredded to death. And next thing you know, he pops up to the bottom of the water, he's fine. You're like, well, Jesus, then I guess nothing kills this motherfucker. We're just going to always, like, why are we even trying anymore? Just let him kill us all, because it's just going to keep the same thing over. So I love when a movie uses intelligence, but also has really thought out, how are we going to do this? They didn't just throw a movie together like our American ones have been, where it's like, hey, big monster fight, Godzilla wins, and then he's going to go off and sleep somewhere till we need him again. And I appreciate
until we need more money from film goers again. I did, going back to the professor thing, because he formulates his plan based on what he's seen in battle, I guess. And so he's seen, like, the landmine that was such a gross, gory scene where it blows off the side of his face and then it regenerates. Yeah. I was like, oh.
he turned into Wolverine, Godzilla.
What did you guys make of the slightly critical, slightly negative? I didn't think, and I'm really bad. It's really terrible. I can't remember the character names. I didn't think that he killed himself flying into Godzilla. I didn't think that was going to happen at any point. And I didn't think
that's a disappointment. Yep.
And I didn't think that's his, guess now, future partner. I didn't think she died in that attack either.
Well, I'll be honest with you. That was in my Letterboxd review, my -1, I made a little just joke on it. My -1 is the star I took away because the ending I hated. I'm sorry. She died. There's nothing. I don't care if she is part of Dragon Ball Z. That explosion killed her. It eviscerated her. And I would have preferred she stayed dead. That's that's the one thing about movies I don't like. I don't like the inability to kill off a character and then stay with it. I hate when we do the, they're not dead. It's like, no, fuck you, they're dead. Just don't kill them. Either kill them or don't kill them. But when I saw at the end of the movie, I was like, I even said out loud, I said, no fucking way. Like I said it out loud in the theater. I was like, there's no fucking way. Like scientifically, you just told me you're going to sink Godzilla. And now you're telling me this girl weighs $1.12 wet, got blown through the city.
Because that's not how explosions work.
Hurt her eye?
That's not how explosions work. They can go around corners. It's a fluid at high pressure, high speed, high velocity, high temperature.
Well, I'll be okay with her saving him. I'll at least spend belief for that. But not her being tossed a million miles away and then all she hurt was her eye. Fuck you. No, she is dead. And I think the film would have had more power if he had if he had actually kamikazed.
Yeah.
I think that was because if she's dead, then we can do that, right? Like I think because the filmmakers know that she's going to be alive, we've got to give some payoff that he can now be with her. I think if we actually stay with her dying, he kamikazes it. And I think even us as an audience like that better. It's a better turn for him. Like he finally does kamikaze, but because it's the right reason to kamikaze, because he is actually saving Japan in that moment. And I think that would have been a better payoff at the end, just in my opinion.
But he still had the kid, though, to potentially look after. Although Aunt May.
Well, Aunt May's way better suited for this than him. Way better suited for him, especially with the mom gone, with her being dead.
Yeah, true.
I was going to say, like, the other favourite bit is where they're, like, talking about, like, the defence zone, and they're like, oh, Godzilla's in the zone! And he just, like, throws a ship. And it's, like, really funny. I forgot about that bit, and I was like, oh, yeah. So there's, like, little funny bits in there as well, despite the tone of it.
I like the fact that even though the plan is outlaid, it still manages to catch us by the surprise. Like the fact they've rigged a ship with nobody on board just to go forward. They've like tied all the ropes for it. And I was like, why was that not revealed in the plan? So you think, oh, Godzilla's like going for the ship, and then you realize, no, there's no one on it. That was the plan all along. And I mean, I think I was alone clearly in this group. So I thought that he'd actually killed himself as a kamikaze. And I was surprised when he turns out as the parachute. So when his wife or whatever way you want to describe their relationship comes back, it's sort of like, yeah, you proved you were willing to trade your life. So we will now give you her back. So you've proven yourself worthy. So this is your reward you get for her to still be alive, as implausible as it seems, because we had that.
It's implausible.
I mean, when the Godzilla has the charging up sequence, which they took clearly inspiration from the first of the legendary movies, because he has the parrot going up his spine. So that's never been seen before, apart from in that one. So clearly you saw that. It's like, well, that looks really cool.
Is that the Gareth Evans?
Yeah, the Gareth Evans one where he's sort of like charging up the spikes. And in this one, now the spikes like popping
come
up.
out as well. Yeah.
If I had my way, I would have set it to AC/DC's Thundershock. Just the way that...
Thunderstruck.
Yeah, Thunderstruck. It's just the way that it's like cheering up, and then when you shoot off in the distance and then it has that big explosion, that's like when you really like go straight and it's like, you've been thunderstruck, and then just a boom. But
it's one of the more impressive expenditures of energy that we get to see in Godzilla films. It was, I mean, it is atomic. Like it turns into an atomic bomb, like Mushroom Cloud after that. I freaking loved how that and the blue is so cool. And you've got it. Well, no one can see this as video audio, but your blue lights behind you, Kobe, kind of reminds you right now, like you've got Godzilla might be behind you. You might want to just turn around and make sure.
I was going to ask if anyone actually watched the black and white cut of this.
No.
It's on Netflix. It was on there as well.
I watched it for when we watched this because I had not seen the black and white cut, and I'm always skeptical when you have like a noir cut like Logan or Mad Max, and other than making me feel like I was watching a companion piece to the original film, it doesn't really add anything to it. So I don't understand the black and white, but if you make an Oscar-winning picture, you get to make a black and white version of your film. So hence Parasite in black and white.
Is that in black and white as well?
Yeah.
I mean...
No idea why.
Yeah, I think it takes away for this film. You want to see the blue, right? Like, I think that's the whole point of you're highlighting this awesome blue neon glow coming out of Godzilla. You lose all of that in a black and white feature.
Well, let's head to the scores.
Hello, I'm Kate Lever, host of Who's a Good Dog, the podcast for anyone who's ever loved a dog. We're one of the other podcasts in the Stripped Media family. Each episode, I ask a brilliant person to introduce me to their dog and tell me how having a dog has changed their life. Listen to Who's a Good Dog wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
So welcome to the Flixwatcher scores. They are always out of 5. You can have decimal places if you wish. And we'll start with you, please, Scott, with your recommendability.
I give this a 5. This is an amazing film to watch. Even if you're not a fan of Godzilla, like I'm not a fan like Elwood is. He's well-versed in Godzilla. I am not. This one absolutely blew my mind. I absolutely loved it, and I was glad to watch it again.
Elwood.
5 stars. 5 stars and 5 glorious stars across the board. This is a magnificent addition to the saga. I think it's ushers in a brave new era, and I'm excited to see what the director is doing with the next film in the series, whether he decides to do something modern day, whether he continues off where Godzilla Minus One leaves off. I think was just exciting across the board, and I think it just proves that Godzilla's got some real staying power.
What year did it come out?
Last year. Around this time, about a year ago.
Yeah, I think it came out in the UK this year as a bit of one of the weird releases, but it's a 2023 film, but I think I saw it this year. It's
another example of like the physical media being screwed up like everywhere all at once, which you still can't get a physical copy of here in the UK. Which is weird because that's like an Oscar-winning movie, so you would have thought that they would have put out the ultra deluxe edition or something, but no. You can get a crappy digital copy and make do with that.
Oh, yeah. So I always do a best of films. I post on Instagram. I'm on Letterboxd, but I always forget to go on it. It's just another thing. By the way, we're on Letterboxd as well.
Follow us. It's nice to see all the posters.
That's why I was able to pick the movies. I went, oh damn it, they done this one, they did this. I was like, damn it.
So when I put it came out like in December last year, and I hadn't, by the time I put my top films together, it wasn't on the list. It's down here as yet to watch, but excited to check it out. And Godzilla Minus One. It would have been on there. Although it was a strong year last year. We had Spider-Verse 2, Oh There God It's Me, Margaret, John Wick 4, Ryan Lane, Talk to Me, You Hurt My Feelings, Dungeon Dragons. I might have squeezed it in there. But anyway, sorry, Helen, it's your turn for the score.
Yeah, so I mean, I enjoyed it. I don't know whether it would I don't know how much more Godzilla I would watch going from it, and I don't know how much of a convert to like a non-Godzilla audience it would have. And I've recommended it to a couple of people, but they've They've not actually watched it on my recommendation, so it's not been strong enough. So,
do you check up on your recommendations?
Well, I like to.
Have you watched that yet?
I do. Did you watch that? What did you think? Or like people will say, "Oh, I watched that. It was shit. Why did you recommend this fucking weird film? You absolute maniac."
Because I don't think very much of you. That's why.
I keep on trying to get my wife to watch. Keep on trying to get my wife to watch Saltburn because she's from Prescott, where the main character's from. And I don't know if you guys have seen Saltburn, but I've not told her anything else about it apart from, it's about a guy from Prescott.
That's all it is.
And I want to watch it. I want her to watch it with her parents, but just like, no.
It's got Sabrina Carpenter's boyfriend.
Is that Jacob Laurie? Is that?
Yeah, who had a real big falling out with Emerald Fennell because they did a photo shoot, which kind of ruined some of his roles he was going up for. So they had a big falling out, but. Yeah, that's normally how you sell it. If you say, "Oh, you're a Sabrina Carpenter fan," her boyfriend's in this. Don't want to say what he's doing, but
I think she suspects foul play in my recommendation. Sorry, where were we, Helen?
It's not a watch with your parents film, that one. I'm gonna give Godzilla a solid 4 on this one. I did enjoy it, but I don't think I quite. Enjoyed it as much as you did, and I think in recommendation it might still be a slightly trickier one. I'm going with it's a bit like Jaws but with Godzilla vibe.
I can't give it a 4. I think I'll give it 4.75. It's not recommended for some people. Elderly children, elderly people.
Elderly people with children for some reason. The old and the young are going to hate this.
4.75. I think I'm like a lot of people here, perhaps apart from Elwood, in that Godzilla's just been a fixture of cinema, but it's just never been a good. Just the name itself hasn't been a draw. I went to see the one that Gareth Evans did because it's Gareth Evans and he did Monsters. I always get Evans and Edwards missed. Guys, you're both Welsh, but the same. Like most of your names the same. But because he did Monsters and I love that to high heaven. So. I went to watch it because I was like, okay, it's good. I mean, it's good. It looks good. There's some fun bits in it. But that didn't pull me into the Godzilla world. I don't think this is going to pull me into the Godzilla world. This is pulling me into, this is a fantastic film, thing. And my reluctance for Godzilla films going forward is still going to be the same, I think. So I might look to you, Elwood, for more kaiju type films. I like, Pacific Rim, Pac Rim. That's quite interesting. But I don't know, apart from just let's make it Jurassic Park with fucking massive monsters attacking people. That's the best version I think we've had, really. Repeat viewing score, Scott.
I'm going to go with a 4. Only reason out of 5 is once you've seen the film, and Elwood and I have talked about this on his podcast, if you're not adept in Asian cinema, it's very melodramatic. And the second time through, now knowing the story, there was certain points where I was just kind of like, let's get to the Godzilla. Like the first time through, you want to listen to the story, right? And I'm drawn in. But now knowing the story, I'm just kind of like, okay, I want to skip this bit. I want to just get to the Jaws bit. I want to get to this bit. And so the last third of the film is amazing. First third is good, but that middle chunk can kind of be a little bit overly dramatic. And so, again, if you're not versed in Asian cinema, it's to the Western eyes and ears, it is different. It's a different style of filmmaking. We don't have over-the-top melodrama like the Asian cinema does. So for me, I give it a 4 just based on that.
Elwood?
I'm going to buck the trend again. I'm going to say this is a 5. I think it's really rewatchable. It manages to hit the same emotional notes when I watched it again as it did the first time. And I like the fact that, Godzilla doesn't have to be the main focus like if this was done in the West with like a Transformers where they got to have the big monster on screen every 5 seconds so people will forget what they're watching. And they can say, Godzilla is elsewhere at the minute, but we're going to focus on the emotional core of this story. And I think it only adds emotional weight to it. And it's doing what Jaws does. We don't see the big shark every 5 minutes. We have the big impactful moments to remind us the shark's there, but the rest of the time it's like Brody Hooper. It's about what's happening with his family, that he's trying to fight against the mayor, and Godzilla Minus One is doing the same thing here. It's shown as a guy dealing with survivor's guilt for the choices he's making and feels that he's now being punished by this force that's manifested and is now destroying his town.
I wonder what would have happened if Spielberg had got Jaws, had the mechanical shark working exactly as they wanted to. How would we have seen much more of the shark? Would have had spent as much time in the story that would have been to the detriment? of the film overall.
I mean, have you read the Book of Jaws?
I've heard it's very different to
the shark is very much in the background, and I think Spielberg. It's so hard because Spielberg just adds that sort of magic to everything that he does, so you don't know whether he would what he would have done if the shark had worked, whether it would have...
So maybe I should say in someone else's hand than Spielberg, more than...
I think it would have been like
in
Jaws
Michael
2.
Bay's film, like the shark would have been like flying through the sea or something.
But sharks with lasers.
Shark with freaking laser beams.
Lasers.
What's a laser back in 1970s?
That shark explosion at the end would have been epic. It would have been mushroom cloud. It would have been
It would
unbelievable.
have exploded 4 times. just keep exploding. It's like...
It's just a chain reaction. It blows up other sharks that aren't even related.
It turns out sharks are very, very flammable. Helen?
Repeat viewing. So I don't think I would have rewatched this had it not been for the podcast. I was kind of like going, do I want to rewatch it? It's been a little bit of a while. I also did something which you should never do, was I did put it on the English dub. So don't do that. It's really interesting because like Netflix automatically plays that. Well, for me, it does that. So just to probably say that when you put it on Netflix, be sure to turn off the dub because it's an experience. And it's not one that you should really do. I was a bit naughty, so sorry about that. So I think I'm going to give it a 3 for repeat. I don't know what more I got out of it this time round. And I definitely the first time round was a lot more kind of like, wow, this is cool. Like, this is like super exciting. And I didn't really know, like, how does Godzilla work? And this time round I was a bit like, oh, he does the regeneration thing and stuff and everything. So yeah, for me a 3.
There were still those kind of lines of exposition. Like, they hadn't discussed what happens with his heat ray once he blasts, but then in the heat of the battle, it was like, okay, he's done his heat ray, it's going to take a while to decharge. It's like, when have you talked about this? You haven't explained this before. Anyway, I'm gonna watch this. I'll watch this a few more times. I think there's another one coming, which fills me with a sense of like, hopefully is good as well. And I'll probably rewatch that before this. And I think if anyone says, let's watch Godzilla film, it's going to be this one. So yeah, 3.2, I think, as a rewatchable score. Scott, small screen score.
I just want to say I love your points. I love your decimal points.
Just as many as you want.
I love it. I almost feel like I didn't do this properly. I feel like maybe it's an American thing. I got to do whole numbers. It's either half or a whole. And yours like 0.8, 0.35. Like, I love, and then there's and you don't give any explanation. So I just fucking love that. So don't ever change that. I absolutely love the decimal points. Like, I'm going to give that a 3.62. And we're going to move on. I love it. For small screen, I give it a 1. And I think, Helen, maybe that's why you didn't enjoy it as much as because when you see it in the big screen, it's that communal experience. It's the reaction the entire crowd has when you're watching. It's the reaction you have while watching it. It's such an epic movie. It deserves to be on a big screen. And now look, I understand. It's not. There's no screen that's going to keep playing it. So the unfortunate thing is for listeners who haven't seen it on the big screen, you really fucking missed out. Like, you really missed out. So being honest with you, like, it's still going to be a fun experience. But man, seeing that Jaws moment or seeing when he finally fires off his laser-like thing and just the explosion and everything that's happening is so amazing in a theater. Just the sound and everything is just absolutely amazing when you get to be in that kind of experience. So to watch it on your couch, yeah, okay, it's fun. Winter's coming. You got nothing else to do. Absolutely. But it will not have the same power as it did when I saw it in the theater. And that was a little bit of the downside of rewatching it on my TV today. I was kind of like, man, I really missed when I saw this in the theater. I should have gone to see it more than once in the theater because now I may never get that chance again. So I'm going to give it a 1.
I did that with a few films where if I come out and think I need to see it in the cinema the next time, then that same weekend I'll often book it and go see it again.
Yeah. Well, it's like Fury Road, right? Like, you see that in the theater, like, whoa, and you see it on TV, like, it's still good. But it's like, man, that everything in that theater experience is so much more vibrant than, even your home theater still can't touch what you're able to get in the cinemas.
Elwood.
I give this a 4. I watched this for this viewing. I actually watched it on my laptop, so it's a smaller screen, and I've watched this on a normal TV as well. I think the drama of the film and just the the visual of the film do shine through despite the smaller screen. Yes, I mean, it benefits from having as big a screen as you can see it as possible. But obviously, it's the sort of film that's very rarely going to turn up on a repeat viewing somewhere, and chances are you probably can't get to like the Picture House or something like that, or the Prince Charles to see the two. Probably going to be the only place to show it. So I think that you are not perhaps going to lose some of the effect for like some of those bigger shots, like when you first see Godzilla, or as Scott says, the boat sequence. Those really benefit from having it, and the finale as well, when he's like flying his plane and Godzilla's like jumping up. Those sequences are really great, but I think you can still watch this on, like I said, on your laptop, or you can watch it on your home TV and still enjoy it. I think it's the drama really sort of carries the film through. We just obviously lose some of the spectacle.
Helen?
Yeah, definitely for me, the experience of seeing it with a crowd and on the big screen, and it being completely like new to me as well. If I'd have just like watched it for this podcast coming on, I probably would have been like, it was all right, but like a bit silly kind of thing. So I'm not going to rate it as harshly, because I still think that it does look fine on TV, and like, you know, if you've got a nice fancy TV with some good sound, then you're going to have a good viewing experience. So I'm going to give it a 3.5, I think, for this.
I'm going to go for a 2.3 here. Unlike yourself, Scott, I kind of felt the creakiness of the visuals on the smaller screen. I felt that a lot of the stuff going on in the water didn't look like water in places. And I think when I was in the cinema, because there's a lot happening in the cinema, there's a lot happening at those times, I just didn't notice it. But I think in the quieter times, I could kind of look at the edges and go, that doesn't look quite right. You know, like in the 80s when you first see Superman flying, Chris Reeve Superman, and you're like, yeah, I can kind of see the glow around his edges. And I felt that this time, where I wasn't, I just didn't notice in the cinema at all. I was just like in it to win it kind of thing. So, and also the music and the bombasticness of the sound just kind of really envelops you. The story there still works at home, but yeah, I think, there's a reason this got best special effects, best visual effects, and I just felt it a bit creakier in the smaller screen. Engagement score, Scott?
I go with a 3. Because when Godzilla's on screen and we're in some sections, I cannot turn away. But like I said, some of the melodrama, I was like, all right, I'll plod through this, but I'm going to stay with the film because I know the Godzilla moments are so worth the payoff. Again, and again, I'm not attacking Asian cinema by any stretch of imagination. Like, there are some films I like that sometimes I repeat watch and go, all right, that's a little slow. Let's get Mel to the fucking fights here. All right, Braveheart, let's move this along a little bit. I want to see people cut down with swords. So, yeah, it's a 3. It's still a good movie, but if you haven't seen it, see the whole thing. But if you have, you can kind of click through, get to the Godzilla parts, and you're really going to just be absolutely having a blast when you get to that point. So,
Elwood, your score?
I feel we're back to I'm just like here, like, giving it glowing scores across, but yeah, 4 again. I think there's something about this story that's being told here that is engaging. It doesn't need to have the giant monster on the screen. And it's fun when Godzilla's on the screen, but at the same time, it's fun when you have like the banter the crew have when they're on there. When he first turns up and he finds out that the boat they're using is this creaky old tug, because it's made of wood, so it doesn't attract magnetic lines. Like how the captain reprimands the kid, and it's sort of like and the kid's like, oh, I want to go to war, and they're like, you should be happy you didn't go to war. These are like the moments that really sort of I come to the film for, rather than like the big spectacle sequences, and just even like how that little family unit develops, and what he's willing to do, like initially just to keep the roof over their heads, and how that sort of like grows and she gets a job. And there's all these little bits of family drama that like make it in the same way that Jaws is made by its family drama.
Helen?
Yeah, I mean, also don't feel bad for giving it high scores. I think if you'd have come on from the Asian Film Club and gone, no, this wasn't for me, it would have been a bit
they would revoke my license. Like, no more Asian cinema.
Not very on brand. And also, I wanted to say that I forgot to say, I just loved it at the Oscars where they like had their little Godzillas and they're just like, little Godzilla. and like the heel on the shoes was like the blue spikes as well on their little shoe.
Oh, okay.
They just really committed to it, and I just thought that was like super cute. And then when
they did a little video of Godzilla accepting his Oscar as well, which is just so cool.
I love things like that. I'm going to give it a solid 4 for engagement. I think it just about holds up the 2 hours. Yeah, I think it is. Some of it is a little bit melodramatic, but I think that there's enough Godzilla in there to propel that.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a bit higher. I'm going to 4.5. I think it really holds the attention. Apart from those points where I said I don't think those have happened. Those deaths have happened. I think the character bits for me are the parts that make it really important. And when you look at the recent kind of sway of the superhero films that have happened, the best ones are the ones where they've got the character and the story right over and above the action that's happening, because the action is in a counterpoint to the story that's happening and the interaction between the people. And that's why, Robert Downey Jr., the reason he's such a great Iron Man is not because he looks like he knows how to fly properly. It's because he's an amazing Tony Stark, and he really pulls the team and everyone working together or against him for reasons. And I think it does that well. I think there's melodrama here. I like that word. I like the word that's been used a lot in this lesson, in this session. But I think that doesn't offset it. It augments what we see on the screen ultimately. Overall score is 3.75938. It's the small screen score.
Small screen,
that tanked it. The film that's been tanked most by the small screen so far is City of God, where everyone's like, yeah, we need to see this in the cinema forever. This is the best place for this film to be. So guys, if you aren't following us on Twitter or any of the social media channels, we're on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod. We're on all the other social media channels at Flixwatcher. Listen out for or look out for a tweet or post saying something similar to, we're reviewing We're reviewing Godzilla Minus One with Church of QT and Asian Cinema Club. Have you seen it? Tell us your thoughts and your scores out of 5 stars for an on-air shout out on Flixwatcher. Yes, Scott.
My friends over at the podcast Nobody Asked For, which they can be found at Nobody Asked For Pod, they said the only thing better than this film is Godzilla's posture in the film. A colossal 5 out of 5 for me. And John Loftus at Lofty Sands says, my movie of 2023 shows Hollywood how to make a thrilling monster disaster movie on a decent budget that's full of heart and humanity. Gives the tacky other version of the franchise the atomic breath treatment. 5-star emojis on it. So
we haven't discussed. We talked a bit on the budget how much cheaper it was, isn't it? Special effects would be in an American version of the film would be way more than this. So,
and not necessarily better.
Yeah,
see the
exactly.
flash.
I think there was some controversy about how much they paid the artist in doing that. So it'd be good to know. I'd hope that they paid them, a good wage for the work they've done. But I think a lot of people in that industry are just really, really poorly treated for the level of skill that they have and they bring to the modern cinema. And that's my soapbox.
It's a problem across the board. I mean, a lot of the anime studios are having problems at the moment with not paying artists and creators the money that they're due, and at the same time you're looking at how much anime is being rolled out, and a lot of it's the same issues we're having here in the States with working conditions for AAA video game companies they're having for graphic designers in Japan. So it's a problem, not a good time to be a creative.
Lack of respect for the drawing arts. Scott, Elwood, can you tell us where we can find you guys online and say goodbye to the listeners?
Yes, you can find me at the Church of QT Pod, and I am on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter /X, and Letterboxd. And I drop episodes every Friday.
Nice.
Asian Cinema Film Club can be found on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Threads and Blue Sky. You can also check out our blog, which is asiancinemafilmclub.wordpress.com. Or if you want to come and stalk me personally, you can find me on Letterboxd, which is Elwood Jones. And you can criticize my random ass film tastes.
Cheers, guys. It's been a pleasure to talk about Godzilla Minus One.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Bye.
Bye.
Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty tunes and Rockwood Audio's editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.